Table for One and Also Pickles by Evelyn Grace. Samantha Reed did not believe in fate. She believed in calendars, backup chargers, and laminated to-do lists. She believed in contingency plans for contingency plans and keeping her life organized with the precision of a Swiss watch. Her Monday morning had started exactly as scheduled: 6:30 a.m. alarm, a 1-mile run, green smoothie, kale, spinach, and regret, and a color-coded itinerary that would make military strategists weep with envy. Which is why, when she tripped over a corgi in the middle of a sidewalk cafe, landed face first in someone's iced matcha, and heard applause, actual applause, she did not think, "This must be destiny." She thought, "This is how I die, humiliated, wet, and sticky." The matcha was everywhere, in her hair, dripping down her blazer, pulling in the pristine pages of her planner where "client meeting 2:30" was now a green illegible smudge. The applause, she realized with growing horror, was coming from a table of college students who seemed to think her spectacular faceplant was performance art. "Oh no," said a warm male voice above her. "Pickles strikes again." She sat up, soaked and sticky, with a dog nose in her face, and a man crouched beside her, holding 2 napkins and an apologetic grin. The dog, presumably Pickles, was a stubby-legged corgi with the kind of innocent expression that suggested he'd never caused trouble in his life, despite the obvious evidence to the contrary. "You named your dog Pickles?" she asked, accepting the napkins like a civilized adult, and absolutely not crying over her now matcha-drenched planner. He shrugged, and she noticed he had paint under his fingernails, blue and yellow streaks that somehow made him look more interesting rather than messy. "He came with the name Rescue 3 years ago. I was going to change it to something more dignified, like Winston or Theodore, but—" he growled at me, very assertively. Apparently, he's attached to his pickle identity. Pickles wagged his entire body like a furry accordion, his tail creating a small tornado of fallen leaves around their feet. Sam narrowed her eyes, trying to salvage what remained of her professional dignity. "You brought an off-leash dog to a cafe." "I brought a very good boy who slipped his harness while I was reaching for the almond croissant. That's kind of on me, but also kind of on almond croissants, which are deeply distracting. Have you seen them? They're like buttery, architectural marvels." She blinked, caught off guard by his earnestness. "Are you flirting with me? While I'm sitting here dripping in kelp water?" He smiled, crooked, charming, too much for this situation, the kind of smile that probably got him out of trouble frequently. "Is it working?" Absolutely, but she'd rather stick her head in a beehive than say that out loud. Instead, she sighed and stood, brushing off crumbs. Her white blouse was now a Jackson Pollock painting of green tea and embarrassment. "I had a plan today, you know. Meetings, grocery run, alone time with Netflix, and a very expensive face mask." Pickles barked once like, "Plot twist!" The man offered his hand, and she noticed his grip was warm and steady, the kind of hand that suggested he actually knew how to fix things when they broke. Henry, owner of Pickles, former croissant fumbler, frequent cafe crasher apparently. Sam, currently dripping disaster, usually functioning adult. "You wear disaster well." "Careful," she said, arching a brow. "I bite when cornered." "So does Pickles, but only if provoked, or if you're holding bacon. He has very strong feelings about bacon." They stood there a moment longer than strangers usually do, surrounded by the gentle chaos of cafe life, clinking cups, murmured conversations, the hiss of the espresso machine. It was just short of what could be considered a moment, but close enough to make her pulse do something irregular. Henry scratched the back of his neck, leaving a small streak of yellow paint she hadn't noticed before. "Okay, I know this is forward, but would you let me buy you a replacement drink and something carb-based to make up for the fact that my dog sent you flying? It's the least I can do, considering you're now wearing half the cafe's matcha supply." She eyed him, weighing her options. Her afternoon schedule was shot anyway. No way she could walk into a client meeting looking like she'd been dunked in a green tea fountain. Do I also get to pick the table? Yes, unless you're one of those people who chooses a wobbly table on purpose just to test the emotional resilience of everyone nearby. Only on Mondays. It is Monday. Then I guess you're in for a ride, croissant guy. They sat at a corner table with firm footing and flaky pastries, Pickles curled up between their feet like he'd planned the whole thing. The afternoon light filtered through the cafe windows, casting everything in the kind of golden glow that made even matcha stains look almost romantic. Henry told her he taught art to middle schoolers. Yes, they're completely feral, but they're fun feral. Last week, one of them made a sculpture of their math teacher out of clay and paper clips. It was surprisingly accurate and deeply concerning. Sam told him she did freelance project management and once color-coded her sock drawer for fun, then immediately regretted sharing something so embarrassingly organized. He didn't laugh. He said, "That's kind of hot, actually," and she almost choked on her scone. "You have paint in your hair," she said, deflecting. "Occupational hazard. You have matcha in yours. Corgi-related hazard." "Let me guess," Henry said, tearing off a piece of croissant. "You don't usually do this." "What? Talk to strange men who spill drinks on me via canine missile?" "Exactly. Spontaneous cafe conversations with people whose dogs have questionable impulse control." "No, I do not. I plan conversations. I schedule them between respond to emails and reorganize spice rack." "Then let's consider this a plot twist. Your day started with spilled matcha and ends with a surprise meet cute. I swear, if you use the phrase rom-com moment out loud, I will revoke your croissant privileges forever." He leaned in, eyes twinkling with mischief. "What if I said I actually like rom-coms?" She blinked. "Like, unironically?" He placed a hand on his heart with mock solemnity. "Meg Ryan is a national treasure, and 10 Things I Hate About You fundamentally changed my understanding of love and teenage poetry. I own the soundtracks." She stared at him, stunned into silence. In her carefully curated dating history, she'd never met a man who admitted to liking romantic comedies without immediate backtracking or claiming it was ironic. Pickles let out a tiny sneeze, as if to punctuate the declaration. "Well," she said slowly, "I was planning to reorganize my pantry this afternoon. Alphabetical, by cuisine type. And now?" She gave him a half smile, the kind that felt dangerous and thrilling and completely off script. "Now I'm wondering if I'm about to fall in love with a man whose dog almost dislocated my knee and ruined my favorite planner." Henry's ears turned red, a blush that spread down his neck in a way that was entirely too endearing. "Is that a yes to more coffee? Or maybe a next time that doesn't involve emergency napkin distribution?" "I'll think about it," she said, standing and brushing pastry flakes from her lap. Her planner was still damp, but somehow that felt less catastrophic than it had an hour ago. He stood too, Pickles stretching and yawning at their feet. "Can I at least offer you one last thing before you go?" "What's that?" He picked up a crumpled napkin from the table, scribbled something on it with the same careful precision she'd noticed in his paint-stained hands, and held it out. She glanced down. It was a phone number, and underneath it, in surprisingly neat cursive that suggested middle school art teachers had better handwriting than expected, for Fate, or Pickles, or both. As she walked away, tucking the napkin into her bag next to her ruined planner, she heard Pickles bark once, a sound that seemed suspiciously like approval.